From one of the fastest short tracks on the schedule to one of the oldest road races on the circuit, it's time to go road racing, boys. Back to Watkins Glen. We got all of our favorite betting picks for you coming up on the back road. Come on down, won't you?
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Stay from the stage.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Back Road. This is In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. My name is Elliot Hicks. With me is Rod Villagomez as we head back for a squiggly season once again. The road course at Watkins Glen International is home for all three series this weekend, the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. Going to be an exciting weekend, Rod. Even though I feel like I say that every week, there's always some excitement to be had here on the Back Road.
Always excitement to be had, not just on the show, but I mean, look, we're talking racing. What better way can you spend a Wednesday night than talking racing? And yeah, Elliot, it feels like forever since we've been on a road course. It just, I don't know. I've forgotten what they've felt like to be on a road course, but no, I'm just kidding. Of course, it feels like there's so many of them now that you can't miss it.
Yeah, we had that little grouping in the early summer. We were just talking about how summer's basically all just about over with, beginning August. You know, some kids already back in school. It's crazy out there, and it's going to be crazy on the track too. A shout out to everyone who's joining us live again a night early on a Wednesday. Shout out to everyone in the comments here. We had Marcus first as usual. He'll be excited to see Christopher Bell in that 52 truck running double duty, as well as in the Cup Series, thinking that Bell will get another road course win. And then recently we have had both Cush with some faith in Connor Zilisch there. His name will come up a couple of times in a couple of series. And then Nick with us as well, saying what up, saying I think Buescher tops SVG at Watkins Glen. Some bold picks there. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. The look of the show will be going in the rear view, breaking down how everything went at Iowa, then breaking down Watkins Glen in our Horizon forecast, and then chatting in the parking garage props with all of our best picks for the week in the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. We have a lot of fun here in the live show. We appreciate everyone who comments. Throw in your picks for who you think is going to win this weekend at Watkins Glen, or any of your best bets that you see throughout the show as we're chatting. Shout out to all of you. Shout out to everyone listening on the audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Everyone there in Western Tennessee, 101.5 FM. Talking West Tennessee, that's 8 p.m. Saturday nights that you catch us there. And an especially special shout out. Very special. How special is it? It's pretty fun. It's the IBT Racing family. Gives you our full weekly NASCAR betting cards, entry into our memorabilia giveaways, entry to our exclusive weekly betting model that you get to catch on. And we've got a new milestone there this week with that. And it just lets you join the conversation with all of us, myself, Rod, Seth, Ryan from My Fantasy Race, and all of our wonderful DGens that have been there with us. DGens or betters. I don't know if DGen is entirely a good term or not, but we'll go with it. It's a lot of fun. And now, so that $3.99 a month, as you see there in the racing family, or $36 for the year, that's not just for the racing family anymore. We are now debuting the IBT football family for this fall. That gives you access to conversation with Seth and all the football analysts over there. We'll be around too. We're in the same Discord, but probably more for banter than any bets, at least on my part. We'll have football memorabilia giveaways over there as well. A Q&A Discord show for each week of the regular season with Phil and Ben, a couple of talented football analysts we got over there. Like I said, access to the full betting cards for those guys like Seth and I do weekly over in the racing side. And then you get entry into our touchdown contest as well. People will make an anytime touchdown call in the channel each week. It'd be a weekly updated leaderboard and then a plaque from Dynasty Deck showing you're the touchdown champion. Twice the fun over there now in the Discord channel. It's been plenty of fun though so far, Rob.
Family just continues to grow, and I'm sure there'll be more sports added there as it all comes, as more people start to join in and more people start to say what they like and more conversations. So definitely get in there. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, we appreciate all the support.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We've got two of our big three in there now. We'll get golf there at some point soon. That's the next step here on the Manifest Destiny of In Between Media here, as we'll continue the Manifest Destiny of the show and take a look back in the rear view at how Iowa went. So with the Cup and Xfinity Series back at the Iowa Speedway over there, second year running for the Cup Series, the Xfinity race saw Sam Mayer grab his first win of 2025 in the Haas Factory team car. First win for Ford and Xfinity this year, as Haas is their main team there. Goes back-to-back at Iowa, wins in the JRM car, and then gets it done in the Haas car. In the Cup Series, pretty basic first couple of stages, and then some chaos in stage 3. Yet lots of yellows, as much yellow as out in the cornfields there in Iowa, and it led William Byron to be able to stretch that fuel out quite a ways. The new tire lasted a little longer than we thought, and it's the 24 grabbing the victory there, stretching that fuel load longer than we ever thought it would. The races, there's always the typical next gen of, oh, nobody could pass for lead or nobody could pass or whatever. But definitely in both of the series, still some intriguing racing happening this weekend.
Yeah, and I was talking to Cody too earlier in the week. I said we may need to have a industry-wide discussion on what actually makes good racing, because I feel like each and every week we say, oh yeah, there was some exciting parts, but really what does make a good race? Because I thought there was a lot of intriguing strategies. Obviously, William Byron being able to stretch it out. I know everyone's mad because they're like, well, the broadcast said he was on fumes. Well, yeah, but the broadcast is also meant to drum up a little drama, right? It probably wasn't as close as we were all led to believe. But by the same token, like, were you not riveted? Were you not waiting to see whether or not he was going to run out of gas? Like, whether or not it was manufactured, Elliot, at the end, the result was the same. You were like, whew, once he crossed the finish line in first, right? Whether or not you were cheering for him, but you were still invested in that outcome. So to me, like, yeah, I was hooked till the end because I was like, is he really going to run out or not?
Yeah, same sort of situation like Briscoe at Pocono, where, Prime had the burn bar that maybe has a little more science and AI behind it. But at the end of the day, the broadcast is also not sitting on a pit box. They don't know exactly the amount of fuel that went into Byron's car. They're hearing Byron and his crew say, hey, we got to back it down, back it off until those last couple of laps there. The Steve Letarte has plenty of experience at this. He's had some where he's been able to stretch the fuel mileage. He's had some where your driver runs out of gas off turn 4 after not winning for about 2.5 years. That happens. And it happens all the time, but it was Byron that takes the win, and it worked well for my betting card because I had the Byron outright at 11-1 and Top Chevy at plus 400. All in all, my second best week of the year. Nailed Byron on the outright and plenty of placement props too. There were some comments in the Discord. All in all, I must have had maybe 11 or 12 different placement props. So we had a whole bunch of them hit. We had the Blaney top 5 down there at minus 109. Got Chase Briscoe on 2 separate bets in a group and for a top 10 at even money. And then we had Bowman, Preece, and Austin Dillon all hit top 10s for me, anywhere from plus 240 to plus 600. Had a separate matchup with a 23 over the 1 at plus 110. And I had that silly little can of corn Caesars matchup parlay too. Had 6 of them, and 5 of them hit, and the only one that missed was another one that I bet separately. If only Reddick could have beat Logano, would have been swimming in a whole lot of cash and corn. How'd your betting card go this weekend, Ron?
Very well, actually. As a show, we cleaned up pretty nicely in Iowa. As far as the Cup Series go, I had Elliot over Bell. I had Bubba to win his group at 3-1. Actually, that was a really good hit right there. Didn't get his top 5, but guess what? We missed it by 1 spot, right? Had Blaney top 5 as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good number like you did. I got minus 120 for that one. Missed Cindric top 10. Boy, that was a tough one to miss too. He finished 12th in that one. Had winning car number over 19.5 at plus 120, and then William Byron to win it all at 9-1. So that was a great card.
Yeah, and it really is good shout out to our model too that had Byron, I think, like 94, 95, some high 90s percentage. And the numbers worked out too. Even at a 9-1, I feel like we would have been happy. But as Seth and I talked about last week, the 11-1 that I got, definitely very happy about that, as we have some discussion about the race here in the comments. TK bringing up with Bubba 32nd to 6th in the last run. They went a couple of laps down, replacing a toe link, even though he couldn't quite get to the top 5. Making it interesting there at the end must have been fun riding that. And understandable. Bad that Blaney was half a second faster and completely unable to pass. Once he got to 4th, again, it's one of those things. What makes good racing now in this car? Obviously, everyone and their mother is saying that this car probably needs a major overhaul, but we kind of have to take what we can get. And I agree. I was entertained for good portions of that race as well.
Yeah, and again, do you want the cars just to be able to pass at will? Like, what? Because then who has the advantage? Who cannot? Is it the faster car? Is it there's a lot that goes into, you have to earn every pass, and they shouldn't make it to where everybody can just pass everybody at any given time. Like, you have to be able to time it right. You have to be able to, get to the right area of the track to pass. It's not just like, oh, you can't pass. Like, yeah, they got to work on it. Yes, but I don't have the answers. I guarantee you that much right now. I have zero technical knowledge about how to manufacture race cars and make them raceable. So don't ask me for suggestions, and I'm just going to take what they give me on the track for the time being.
Yeah, there are certainly smarter minds that can figure all that out. And you compare NASCAR, the passing's maybe harder than it's ever been at the Cup level, but you also have the ability to lean on guys a little bit, and we saw some of that. Brad Keselowski, I think, put out a tweet that said, I've never seen guys that are just willing to basically flat out dump somebody for 15th place. But it's almost one of the perks of stock car racing that you can kind of lean on each other. If you think about watching Formula One or something like that, you have these 3-mile long tracks, something like that. Their F1 was it Hungary last week? And it was Lando and Oscar battling for the lead, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, the McLaren cars. And it was to the point, very long track there, 12 or so turns. I don't know the track off the top of my mind. But I remember watching the end of that race, and it says, okay, you can pass into turn 1, or you have to wait another 6 turns in the middle of the track, and then those are the only passing opportunities. So at the very least, even if you got to use the fenders, you can pass anywhere on the track. And I guess we should be grateful for that, the way it's racing.
I mean, I am, to be honest with you, because like you said, watching F1, there's 1 or 2 different spots where are great for overtake. And of course, DRS helps that out as well. So, you're waiting for those DRS zones, and maybe they'll pass, maybe they won't, but they stretch it out quite a bit. And you want to talk about no passing? F1 races, there's not a whole lot of passing traditionally.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. Throw the wing back on the cars, have a little DRS system in there. No, that's time. TK with a good point, though. Half a second is a lot faster. If it wasn't so much, I wouldn't find it so annoying. Like I said, there's definitely a lot of problems that can be fixed with this. We just need everybody to work together, do a little kumbaya, and fix the problems up. But for now, we'll just take what they can give us, and thankfully on the betting cards, it gave us quite a bit. I feel like lately I've had a lot of second best weeks of the year. Pocono at the time was my second best. This is my second best. I hope to have another week like Darlington where I won a whole lot of money on the Hamlin outright and a few others, but also some of that was unit share. So I can take it or leave it here. The main news for the week was out of the Truck Series. Kaden Honeycutt, up-and-coming prospect who was Cars Tour late model guy, winner of, I think it was the Snowball Derby last year, got the full-time truck ride this season with Nice, and that's over. Signed with a new OEM for 2026, and he went to tell the Nice brass, and they said, all right, well, you're getting out of our truck the rest of the year, then we're not holding on to you. The rumor is, and the rumor is substantiated by where he's going to drive the rest of the year, Honeycutt has supposedly signed with Toyota, and more specifically Tricon Garage, where Corey Heim, Tanner Gray, Tony Breitinger, and others drive for. But this weekend, this year, it kind of leaves him without a ride for a minute there. He will take over the Stuart Friesen number 52 the rest of the year after this weekend at Watkins Glen because Bell's already in that truck. He'll race the Young's 02 machine this weekend. Kaden Honeycutt will, to keep him eligible for the playoffs there without missing a race. We had that happen with Grant Enfinger a couple of years ago. Missed one race, got a ride, but then couldn't get back in the playoffs. So Honeycutt will still be eligible. He's in there in driver's points, and he would be helped even more if they don't give Stuart Friesen a waiver to make it on driver's points, which why would they if they've already announced that Honeycutt's going to be in that car the rest of the year? But now it gives them a chance to be in the Owners and Drivers' Championship with him in the 52. As for the Nice 45, Connor Zilisch will drive it this weekend doing triple duty, and then apparently Bailey Curry will drive it the rest of the year, and they'll have to flip-flop between the 44 and the 45. It's honestly a good opportunity for Honeycutt, in my opinion, kind of, continually moving up. The Friesen truck, probably on the same level as the Nice truck, maybe just a tiny bit lower, but a truck that's won a race this year, won at Michigan. And then obviously Tricon will be a big-time boon for Honeycutt next year, running in some good equipment. And as much crap as I talk about Nice, it's unfortunate that it turns out that way. I kind of see it from their point to, okay, if this guy's not going to be part of our future, we want people who will. But you look at the other drivers in these Nice trucks, short of Zilisch this weekend at road course, congrats to them for picking him up. But other than that, if that's the Nice future, I don't know how bright the future is for Nice, Rob.
Well, first and foremost, we want to say that we are happy to see Stuart Friesen. The recent update is that he's out of surgery. Things are progressing okay, and he's going back home. So definitely thoughts to him because that is just massive.
Yeah, great point. Thank you for mentioning that. That was announced about an hour or so ago that he is back home and recovering as best he can, but again, not expected to return to the truck this year.
Which, believe me, I stubbed my toe walking to the fridge and I'm done for the rest of the year. So I can totally understand him. But yeah, as far as Honeycutt is concerned, I mean, obviously, if he's going to be inheriting that 11 truck, what a gigantic boon, right? I mean, this is obviously the best truck right now in the series, piloted by the best driver in the series. I get it. But if he can do half as much good as what Corey Heim's been able to do, then definitely good for him. And then as far as the rest of the season for Nice, I mean, this is like a Spire All-Star truck where they're just going to kind of, I know Bailey Curry, but like, are they just going to pull him and say, okay, we got Connor Zilisch to ride. Let's see who else we can get to ride. It's kind of a tough situation. And I mean, for Honeycutt, they'll fine. If he's already out the door and if he's signing with Toyota, then, that's great. And I think the 52 truck, like I was saying earlier on the NASCAR Game podcast, that's one truck to worry about, right? Nice has a few that they're worrying about every single week that they're putting out. And they've got decent drivers that are already driving it. But like the 52 is a 52. He's going to get all the best of everything that he can get from that 52 for the rest of the year. And I think that's going to benefit him.
Not only that, but that's a team that's now racing for a cause now. They know that Stewart back home is going to want them to race as hard as they can. And imagine getting a kid his first win, subbing in for Stewart. It would just be a lot of fun. And we've seen Honeycutt have really competitive runs in this 45 truck. I know Chastain has won in it and stuff like that, but Honeycutt, for a guy that's a rookie in the truck series, definitely more than impressive there. And like I said, I think this is a good opportunity to get used to the TRD stuff. And then, if he takes over the 11 next year and Heim moves up, he very well could be a championship favorite. And I expect that in the offseason, we'll be talking about him as one of our potential championship bets heading into 2026.
100%. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it because, like you said, he's been a contender. Now let's see what he can do in a decent enough truck that can, we've seen Stuart Friesen pilot to wins before.
Yeah, and no insult to Young's Motorsports, but I don't think either that team or Honeycutt on a road course would be all that successful. So it works. Go out there, put in a decent run, keep a clean truck, and see what you can do out there for Friesen. Let's start to look ahead to what's going to happen at Watkins Glen this weekend in this week's Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Taking a look at this weekend's schedule and entry list, you see that 23. We're going to McDonald Land on Bubba Wallace's car, but the rest will be in Watkins Glen. Your 30 chartered cars, the 6 lawsuit affected seats, and a full field this weekend of 4 open cars. JJ Yaley in the 44, sponsored by Syracuse, the Syracuse Orange up there, nice looking car. Josh Balicki will be in the Garage 66. No King of the Hill on there this weekend, though, so not quite as interesting, but shout out to whoever that sponsor is. Catherine Legg coming off of a good run in Indianapolis a few weeks ago. We'll be back in the 78, and Connor Zilisch back in the Trackhouse number 87. Definitely someone to watch, whether good or bad. We'll chat about him in multiple series coming up. Xfinity series, you've got SVG back in the 9. Michael McDowell will be the next to race the Colleague 11, recently vacated by Josh Williams. Riley Herbst in the 19, good for him to get some seat time on the road courses. A bunch of road course ringers led by Kaz Gralla back in the 24, and my guy Austin Green in the Jordan Anderson number 32. Darn those top 10 bets not being up as of showtime now. Hopefully they come back. Truck series, big time entry list changes here, mainly because it's the last race where Cup and Xfinity drivers can compete. Their regular season finale is in the next race at Richmond, and in the regular season finale in any of the playoff races, nobody that is Cup or Xfinity points eligible can step down to run there. So everyone and their mother is hopping in this truck series race. William Sawalich is in the 1. Caden Honeycutt over to the 02 this week, as I mentioned. Kyle Busch racing his last truck race of the year in the 07. Sammy Smith in the 7 over there for Spire. You've got Ross Chastain in the 44 for Nice. Zilisch in the 45, as I mentioned. Christopher Bell in the 52 for Friesen, as Marcus mentioned earlier. Chris Buescher will make I think it's his first career truck series start in the ThorSport number 66. He'll get some extra seat time there. Brent Cruz, 16, 17-year-old young prospect driver, has announced he's starting his own truck team. I think it's just called Brent Cruz Motorsports. Shame on me for not writing that down, but he'll run his own truck this weekend in the number 70. And then Henderson Motorsports back in the number 75 for Parker Kligerman. Exciting weekend all around. Starts on Friday morning with truck practice and qualifying at 11:35 a.m. on Fox Sports 2. If you want to watch the ARCA race, I don't think there's any major entrance for the top 3 series in there, but 2:13 p.m. on your Friday, 41-lap ARCA race on FS2. Then your truck race, green flag at 5:22 for the Mission 176 at the Glen. Your stage lengths there, 20, 20, and 32. Saturday morning, 9:30, Xfinity practice and qualifying Cup Series P and Q at 12:05. And then, stop me, you've heard this one before, the Mission 200 at the Glen. Same sponsorship there. Green flag at 3:20 and stage lengths of 40, 40, or 20, 20, and 42. Excuse me. And then Sunday, the Go Bowling at the Glen. Everything's at the Glen this week, and they put it in the names there. That'll be on USA, green flag 205, 20, 20, and 50 stage lengths. Watkins Glen, one of those exciting places to go. One of those stalwarts of the schedule back in the days when it was just you went to Sonoma in June and you went to Watkins Glen in August. So at least that feels right heading up to the Finger Lakes this weekend.
Yeah, and the fact that there's a lot of data to pull from, that is always a blessing, especially nowadays when it seems like we're going to tracks that these guys haven't been to in a while, or they don't go to very often, or, like a Mexico City, or it's just good for us to be able to know what we're up against at Watkins Glen. And as far as the truck and the Xfinity race goes, this is like when the seniors go down to play JV ball or freshman ball, right? They're down there playing with their buddies to try to make them a little bit better. And it's funny too, because they're all those trucks are occupied by some pretty heavy hitters in that field. So it's going to be, the odds already reflect it in a lot of cases, but it definitely made it a little more fun to handicap, because I think there was a lot of value going on in places where there wouldn't necessarily be value.
Yeah, I agree. We'll chat about that toward the end there. With a lot of different bets you can make in Xfinity and Truck Series this weekend with everyone going down. But yeah, Watkins Glen, a lot different from Iowa last week, where we just had the one cup race, and we really had to pull some stuff out of our rear end for the trends there. Plenty of trends. I think this is the 41st Cup Series race at Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen, when they ran a street course before the permanent facility there, I read it was the first street course race post-war. So good racing history up there. As of right now, though, a 2.45-mile asphalt multi-elevational road course on the layout that NASCAR runs. Primary comps, Coda and Sonoma, the more traditional road courses. I also included Mexico City here. The model uses all three specifically because we've already been there this year. And then I put the Roval and Chicago street courses as secondary. I feel like it's one of those deals, Rod, where any and all the road courses, especially the ones we've been to already this year, can be decent comps, because the ovals, you have all different types. Road courses, of course, they have their own unique pieces, but generally in the cup cars, the road course is a road course. It's called spade a spade, right?
Well, yeah, and we've seen that discipline requires a much, much different just overall skill set than does an oval, right? And there's guys that are innately good. Now, guys have gotten better at road course racing over the course of since they've added 1.5 million to the schedule now, they've gotten better at it. But there are still those that are much better at it than others, and guys that haven't necessarily gotten it no matter how many times they go around. So, and you see that, you see the trends, you see the drivers that are good at road courses, and you see the drivers that aren't so good at road courses, and that makes it a little easier, because you're right. Ovals, it's like you know that these guys can be good at one oval but not another, but then they could probably be good at that because it's the same. But road courses, yeah, it definitely separates the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what kind of oval you're on. There's no oval where SVG is going to win by 19 seconds if ever won by Mexico City. Like we said, plenty of trends this week. In qualifying, Kyle Larson leads all active Cup Series drivers in average starting position, 7.4 in 10 races, so he normally starts up front. Each of Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, William Byron, and AJ Allmendinger, all career starting positions under 10. All-time best among drivers with 3+ starts here. Tony Stewart's average starting position was a 5.875 here. No surprise the smoke was good on these road courses. In terms of active pole winners, Hamlin, Elliott, Busch all have 2. Ross Chastain, who was last year's pole winner, and Allmendinger have 1. In the next gen, Elliott, Hamlin, and Chastain, 22, 23, 24, were your pole winners, and Hendrick Motorsports leads all time with 8 poles. JGR has 5, and RFK has 4. Important to start up front here as we get into the race trends. 8 active drivers have wins here at Watkins Glen. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch with 2 apiece. Then you have Chris Buescher, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and AJ Allmendinger, each with 1. In the next gen, Kyle Larson won in 2022, William Byron in 23, and then Chris Buescher, and that heck of a move in the bus stop to beat SVG last year. He was the 2024 winner. 4 first-time winners at Watkins Glen. Started back with Steve Park, I believe, in 2000. Marcus Ambrose, AJ Allmendinger, Chase Elliott, all getting their first wins at Watkins Glen. Now, relating the qualifying to the race here, 10 of the 41 races have been won from the pole here. That's just under 25%, 35% from the front row, 53.6% from the top 3, 67.5% from the top 5, 77.5% from the top 10. Safe to say, Rod, important to qualify up front here at these road courses to have a real good shot at the win.
Well, especially one like Watkins Glen, obviously the history of this track and people know it well now, especially the older veterans, and they know how to run this race. And it's very difficult to drive your way up through the field, on a 2.4 mile track. So yeah, you definitely have to be able to qualify well. And even with all the stage breaks and all the strategy that we've been able to play over the last few years with all of this, and then taking away stage breaks and then bringing them back again, it's good to be able to stay in front, away from all the nastiness that happens in the middle of the pack on these road course races.
Definitely can be a lot of nastiness, as we saw early last year, as we'll talk about in a moment. So like I said, you have to start pretty high up in the field generally to win here. But last year, Chris Buescher, the first race winner at Watkins Glen to start outside the top 20. He started 24th. In the next gen, the other two winners started second. So no pole winner has won in the next gen here, even though it's happened 25% of the time. The next gen pole winners finished 4th, 2nd, and 4th. So generally, you win the pole, you're probably going to finish pretty well, as we've seen. And oddly, looking at the trends, there have been 4 winners from 13th position, which is the only spot outside the top 10 with multiple wins. So whoever starts 13th, keep an eye on them, see if their odds are any good, and they could be an upset winner. Lucky number 13 for them this weekend. In terms of all-time win records here, Hendrick has 11 of them, Gibbs 7, RFK's got 4. Your best average finish among the active drivers belongs to Christopher Bell with an average finish of 8th in 4 races. Chase Elliott's is 10.625 in 8 races, and then AJ Allmendinger average finish just outside the top 10 at 10.84 in 13 starts. You don't see overtime a whole lot here at Watkins Glen, but it's happened on 3 occasions last year, as well as 2011 and 2005. So definitely something we can see. And as we saw last year, some late race chaos and some late race heroics can make things fun to watch.
Indeed, yeah, and that's just what happens with overtime. It just makes things a little more exciting. I know that Nick Weil was talking about AJ Allmendinger, and that leads us to our iFantasyRace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week. Let's talk about AJ Allmendinger. He was poised to be pretty stout last summer at Watkins Glen. Under the green, he didn't even complete a single lap until he had a transmission issue on lap 6, and just after the restart that marked the end of his race, led to a 36th place finish. I love AJ Allmendinger. And Nick, I would agree with you on a lot of different situations, but Allmendinger has not been a race-winning road course driver in the Cup Series, and especially now that SVG is in. So, I take the asterisk for what it's worth. I think he's going to have a solid finish, but, again, we see these types of problems that keep him away from being a race winner on week to week. Ryan Blaney, our other asterisk mark driver of the week. How good was Ryan Blaney last summer at Watkins Glen? Well, considering he didn't even complete lap 1, we don't know. We have zero clue to both of these drivers with an asterisk by, because we didn't get to see a whole hell of a lot of them in the race last year.
Yeah, I thought I would throw in a bonus one there this week because both Allmendinger and Blaney, as well as Stenhouse, I think only ran 2 laps. But Blaney was involved in that lap 1 incident and had that whole thing about the DVP. Well, it doesn't matter. You can't come back out. You got to be done. And then Allmendinger, I don't even think he was involved in that wreck, but they put him in the number 13 last year for Colleague. And that definitely didn't work out so well for him. But it's, he's back in the 16 back full time, and, the 13 had his share of good runs, but was not able to make the victory lane. You mentioned Nick says it'll be either Allmendinger or Buescher to win this Sunday. Those are pretty good picks. Bob checking in. Shout out to Bob over there in Delaware saying hello. I think we've gotten everyone else. We've got, is it Aguirre? Sorry if I mispronounced that, saying maybe the SVG sweep or Zilisch and SVG. I think SVG will have better equipment than he had for that race last year. The cars were Trackhouse prep, but maybe honestly it was just that number 16 from Colleague that was painted on there that made it just a little bit slower, as we've seen there. I don't want to spoil your card, but I did notice that noted AJ Allmendinger lover Rod Villagomez does not have any, is not shouting out any AJ Allmendinger bets this week. Do you think that it's just you don't expect the race winning speed there, and it just will kind of falter to the point where maybe AJ's hot-headedness will keep him away from even a good placement prop?
You guys all know that he's my spirit driver. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I did give him out, though, on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as a top 10 car, but for minus money. But I had another bet that I wanted to give out here that I thought was a better placement prop in that one. But I do think, I think he's going to be a top 10 car. I honestly do. But when we've seen now the rise of SVG, and we'll obviously talk about this later, and all the guys in the field, race winner, I think that's a little bit lofty of a goal, but I would definitely take a top 10 at the price that I was getting at. And I don't have it on me right now because it's not on my dock. But yeah, I think a top 10 could be his floor, top 5 the ceiling, but I don't see him winning this race.
Yeah, I can understand that. And yeah, that is a good point to make too, that we both throw a good bit of bets out here. Seth does as well. And Seth usually puts out his full card, but you and I, we're more degens. We got a little more going on. And if you want access to all of our full cards, of course, with Rod, you can go over to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and all the great things that you and Cody do over there, where you shout out some different bets. And we appreciate it. You keep some bets for there. You keep some bets for here. You're not throwing out stale content on either one of those. But all of our full cards, you can find them in the IBT Racing family. Gives you access to the full weekly cards, like I just mentioned, entry into memorabilia giveaways, the exclusive weekly betting model access, and joining the conversation with all of us. And that $3.99 a month or $36 for the year Also gives you access to the IBT football family now. You get an exclusive Discord Q&A during the regular season. Seth and the gang, their full NFL and college football betting cards, entry into memory relay giveaways, and the touchdown contest that will take place week in, week out. Football season is coming up. Hall of Fame game was the other week, and it's going to be real exciting there. And an exciting time to join if you haven't joined yet, especially if you've been one of those people that have kind of been holding back. Okay, well, we get what we get from these guys. I'm doing pretty well in it. Now add in the football side. Maybe that'll be enough to entice you guys. Shout out to everyone who's over there and everyone who will be over there. It's going to be fun to watch. Just going to be fun to watch this weekend. Let's get to the bets in this week's Parking Garage Props. In terms of the impressions of the books this week, there's a lot of different things that I think are kind of throwing a wrench in things. First of all, that it's Wednesday instead of Thursday. Normally by Thursdays, there are more odds put up. I mean, it was tough for me to see Xfinity placement props or really anything for trucks until the mid-afternoon today. Thankfully, I was able to spot a couple. And there's also the fact that there's a million different Cup and Xfinity guys in the truck race, and you got SVG and other, road course ringer type guys in the Xfinity race. So there's definitely a lot of variance with those numbers other than, of course, at the front. And like you were saying, Rod, it kind of gives you some good value as you go down the board, which we can never complain about,
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. And as far as the books are concerned, I understand why they probably took their time this week, especially on trucks and Xfinity, because you're right. It probably was a nightmare trying to figure out how to handicap a guy like Sam Mayer when you have all these guys in the field that are jockeying for position. Hard to handicap a guy like Corey Heim when you've got all of these Cup and Xfinity series drivers in the series. So I understand. It still kind of, hurts a little because you got to wait and you got to wait and you got to wait. So it made us to the fact where we had to actually separate our shows for truck and Xfinity, where normally we do them together, which I actually liked better. So if you want to go hear the entire truck episode, it's out right now. But yeah, I mean, we had to kind of shift gears because the books were like, we'll give you a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question I was going to ask. Was you guys normally do these shows earlier in the week? Do you normally see a more expanded odds palette out there? And I'm guessing the answer is yes, but you're right. This week with your Bells and your Bueschers and your Ziliches and your Kyle Bushes, and even good old Sammy Smith in the Xfinity series or in the truck series, and then in Xfinity, some added drivers there, SVG and Zilisch, who's normally there, and McDowell and all those guys. That's the books, like you said, taking their time. And even, obviously SVG is your favorite wherever he's racing. Zilisch is your favorite wherever he's racing. Sometimes they're both favorites at the top of the board, but it does leave some value down the board there for sure.
Indeed. Yeah. And again, finding that value is what we're having fun with this season. And honestly, these races like this, and we'll talk about it in a second. Sometimes the books lead you in a direction and sometimes you lead yourself in that direction. So hopefully we found that nice balance of both between it.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. There's one place to start here. And I've done this the last couple of road course races. The comedy musical duo Flight of the Conchords, hailing from New Zealand, Brett and Jermaine over there. They also had a TV series on HBO back in the late 2000s. Done some puns with some of their song titles. We had the Business Time Parlay a little while ago. Inner City Pressure is a song that would have been perfect for Chicago, but I didn't pull it out there. And then the first song that you hear from him in the pilot episode is called The Most Beautiful Girl, parentheses, in the Room. So the most beautiful Kiwi, parentheses, on the track this weekend is going to be Shane van Gisbergen. I am on the parlay once again for his Cup and Xfinity Series outrights. The Cup outright, is at plus 135. The Xfinity outright at minus 140 this morning on Caesars, giving me combined odds of plus 303, and it's worth every penny. And it's not the only parlay that I have. We'll talk about, of course, SVG and Zilisch throughout the show. I've got this parlay. I have got this parlay plus the Zilisch truck outright. And I have the SVG Cup and Xfinity, or SVG Cup and Zilisch Xfinity and truck tickets. Whole bunch of parlays out there for the two guys that are probably going to win at least 2 out of the 3 of these races. And I've got every kind of intermingling shot at it, because that's the only way you can get value when you have a freaking minus 140 outright in the Xfinity Series. For SVG, I mean, I don't even know why I have to explain it to you guys, but I still have some stats to bring to the table here. SVG, I tallied up his laps led on the road courses. At Sonoma, he led 97 of 110 laps. That's 88%, convenient for the 88. And in all the road course races this year, SVG has led more than half the laps. I think it was 54% or something like that. That even includes his P6 at Coda, where he really wasn't a super competitive car, still led a boatload of laps there in that 88 before Christopher Bell ended up taking the win there. Of course, here at Watkins Glen, nearly had the win last year in the Cup Series before Buescher's good old bus stop heroics. And last year in the Xfinity Series, I think he was around a 4th or 5th place car most of the day, led some laps, but of course succumbed is a bad word, but ended up finishing in that section as Connor Zilisch took home his first Xfinity win there last year. And it feels like anyone who can stop him is either mega overinflated, we'll get to that in a second, or are an inconsistent or tough equipment. McDowell is a guy who I've been really wanting to get on more than I am, but we saw what happened in Chicago where the throttle body wire burnt up or something crazy like that you never hear about. We already had a little bit of the conversation about Allmendinger, but we don't know how well the Collin cars can do in terms of getting up front. And in terms of other guys, flat out just not there this year, as we'll talk about a little later too. I think when we get to the Roval, come the fall, come the playoffs, it'll be a different story, but I do think it'll be one more week where it's the SVG show. In terms of an overinflated number, I think the odds out there, and I guess this can count as an impression of the books too, the odds in the Cup Series for Connor Zilisch are just ridiculous. They are so ridiculously juiced. They're ridiculously overinflated. I pulled a tweet here from @NukeTheHouse, who says, if you're clicking the button on Connor Zilisch to win the Cup Series race on Sunday at plus 500, and God, I've seen it lower than that, you should probably start betting another sport. And if you were hitting that button for the 45 seconds that it was at plus 1,400, you should still probably consider betting another sport. And for Zilisch, again, I think there will be a point where he is competing for the Cup wins. He's obviously going to compete for the Xfinity wins. He's obviously a massive favorite for the truck race. I just think at the Cup level, the kids, it's part he's not ready. It's part the equipment is not there. It's just the whole case of I just don't think that Zilisch is going to be a big contender for the win. Maybe I would have considered a top 5 or a top 10, but at numbers that are, second favorite, third favorite, I just don't think it's there for Connor Zilisch at all this week on the Cup side.
So, yeah, and I just I'll give out mine right now because it is SVG, and it's got to be SVG. I know that my outright, it's at plus 140 at DK. You're still almost at 2-1 for the guy who very much should win this race, right? It's SVG's world. I know we always love the entertainment value of trying to say, okay, well, this long shot can beat SVG. But at this point, Elliot, if a guy punches me 5 times in the face, I'm going to duck the 6 because he's going to connect.
Those aren't just punches. Those are, Muhammad Ali level punches. Those are some punches.
Right?
Conor McGregor, roundhouse kicks in the octagon.
Well, this is Mike Tyson in his prime, right? You knew you were going down.
I'm not going to get Tyson. I'm pulling out MMA fighters before I get to Tyson. Good Lord.
Okay. Like, I'm old. I remember Mike Tyson back in the day. But this is Mike Tyson in his prime. You know when you step in the ring with Mike Tyson, you were going down. Or you were getting your ear bit. Either way, Connor or SVG is going to be the guy to win this week. And I think we love to try to fluff things and prop up other drivers, but he's not going to make the same mistake he made last week. He's learned, obviously, through the course of his couple of seasons in the Cup Series, how to race these guys. Remember, at first he was like, well, I don't want to bump into these guys. That's not the way we race. That's not the way we race these supercars. We don't bump, right? He's like, but these guys lean on each other. These guys, so I guess what? I'll bump and I'll lean too. He learned the little tricks of the trade, which is why he's as dominant of a road course driver as he is right now. And honestly, you can't not bet on him because if you try to get cute and get away from him and he wins, you're going to be like, well, 140 was too not. Now, 140 is good for a guy like SVG. You bet that and you don't look back. Now, you can insurance play with some other guys, but if you don't have anything on SVG this week, then that's on you, right? That's you trying to get cute. As far as Connor Zilisch competing for this, I agree with Nuketown. Like, I get it, right? But this is like a single A drive or double A baseball player immediately getting put into the big leagues, right? Or even a low A or a single A player getting put in the big league. The pitching's different. The speed of the game is a lot faster. Zilisch is going to be he already is a generational talent, and he's going to be a Sunday driver for a very long time. But you can't bet him to win this particular race when guys have been on this track for years, right? And you've got SVG, the hottest guy in the sport. Yeah, he beat him at Xfinity at Sonoma. I get that. I understand. But that's Xfinity at Sonoma, right? That's not Watkins Glen, where SVG actually has track time in a Cup car. So, I mean, for me, like you said, it's SVG, and you just don't look back. Take your insurance where you want it, but it's got to be SVG this week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like free money. You're turning down the free money if you don't have something on SVG. Even if you think, Zilisch or somebody's going to get up there to take the win, drink the juice on what I'm sure is a minus 500 top 5 number, something like that. Bob, I'm sure this is about Zilisch. How about top 10? I just don't think the number's there. I think the numbers are too inflated. It's not worth it at all. TK with a reminder of how SVG's Xfinity race last year went. Bad car, qualified 12th, made adjustments, started from the rear, almost lapped by Zilisch in stage 1. Thank you for the memory on that because I don't remember that at all, but I certainly trust that. It just shows that it was the Zilisch show last year, and SVG was just one of those guys kind of in the background. Lead lap speeding penalty went from 18th to 5th over a few yellow restarts at the end. Yeah, but this is a whole different ballgame. We know SVG's mastered the Cup Car road courses. The Trackhouse Car road courses runs well. I just think Zilisch, it's just a matter of he's got a little maturing to do, and he's got to learn the Cup Car a little more, followed by the most gigantic can of whoop 'em that the Cup Series has seen on road courses. I just don't think it works out very well. I mean, if you were listening to Zilisch at Iowa, one stage 1 gets knocked behind with a pit penalty, is running 17th most of the rest of the day. If you heard how frustrated he was running 17th in Xfinity, I don't think that 87 is going to qualify. I guess maybe he'll qualify it pretty well, but is that really a top 15 car, a top 20 car? If he gets put back in the field a little bit, they'll be going for the win. Stage 2, once he gets some, however that works out, maybe I'm just taking this one incident for Zilisch too far because he has shown maturity well beyond his years, but especially that's almost taking away from me how frustrated I saw him get at Iowa after one little mistake. And, every driver hollers on the radio. I understand that, but I'm just taking that as I don't think it's going to be, daisies and roses and cupcakes and all that for Zilisch to a point where I think contending for a win is completely out of the question. And the top 10 is, at these numbers is unbettable.
Look, racing against Chase Elliott, racing against Christopher Bell, racing against even Kyle Larson on a road course, even lately, it's not the same as racing against a Jesse Love. It's not the same as racing against a Sheldon Creed. It's not the same. Like, these guys are not going to cut you the same kind of slack as the Xfinity drivers are going to. They're going to make you earn every single position. Like I said, Elliott, is he going to do it at some point? Absolutely, he's going to do it at some point, but he doesn't have the track record right now, or even the track time right now to make those kind of moves and to put you in a position to even cash out a $1,400 to win.
Yeah, and I'm sure even when we get to next spring at COTA, whether he's in the 88 or the 99 or whatever car number they have Zilisch in over at Trackhouse, I'm probably looking at his out right then. I'm just not looking at it now, and the numbers are too far inflated for a placement prop. And SVG, you're right, he's learned how to lean on people. He tried to stay off of them and then got Austin Hilled one time at COTA early last year, and then he learned. And we saw it in the Xfinity race there with Zilisch. We saw another good battle there, and I think it'll be a good battle in Xfinity as we'll get to Xfinity in a bit. In terms of outrights, there's nobody else to even talk about, so we're going to move on to placement props here. I've got a couple top 5s I'll lead off with here, and it's a couple of Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, starting with Chase Briscoe. I'm on this bet, a top 5 at plus 310 over on FanDuel, as well as his top Toyota bet at plus 325 over on Bet365. It feels like lately Chase Briscoe and the 19 team are putting themselves in position to be a legitimate late round playoff dark horse. I won't quite say championship dark horse yet, but a legitimate who I would not be surprised at all if made the round of 8 going away, Chase Briscoe and the 19. They've absolutely nailed it in qualifying, winning the pole for just about every dang crown jewel, and 3 in a row there in the summer and all that stuff. And in the last 4 weeks, 3 runner-up finishes for this 19 team, and that includes Sonoma, which is obviously a road course. In terms of the other road courses, P7 at Mexico, pretty strong run there. 23rd at Chicago, but that was also some strategy knocked him out there. I think he got spun at one point. He led 13 laps in that race, and his average running position was P8. I think that's very respectable. And his average running position has been in the top 8 every week but Atlanta since that Pocono win. So that's dating back quite a few weeks there. It has been a red-hot summer stretch for Chase Briscoe, putting himself in position. I don't know if he's going to be the runner-up again, and maybe a top 10 bet would have been better, but I like this number. I like the top Toyota bet, and I like the top 5 bet, just the same as I like the top 5 number on Ty Gibbs at plus 325. I've got all the faith in the world that the 54 will be nipping right on the heels of the 88 and the others running up front. P11, P2, and P7 in the summer road course stretch. And that Mexico P11, of course, we all remember a real shot at a top 2 there. Arguably should have won that race, but SVG gets in front on the strategy, and Ty Gibbs didn't have a shot there. Getting up to 11th, honestly, probably was a success there. But had the runner-up finish at Chicago, and then the 7th, where I think he was even kind of caught behind there a little bit, but I feel like Sonoma and Watkins Glen, even though we compare them as these are the 2 stalwart road courses of the Cup Series, there's big differences between Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and I think that Glen will be better for the 54 than Sonoma was. expecting the good runs to continue, and I'm expecting these Joe Gibbs Toyotas to have some really solid runs this weekend.
I have been instructed to read the following statement as it pertains to Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs is the driver of the 54. I'm just kidding. No, look, here's the thing. And I, we always joke about the fact that I'm not all that enthralled with young Ty Gibbs as much as Carson Hocevar either too. But when you have to admit that they're doing well, you have to admit that they're doing well. You have to take your biases out of it, and you have to acknowledge the fact that, yes, Ty Gibbs has actually been on a pretty decent run as of late. The junior jinx is still in effect, but I can lift it a little bit. And yeah, you're right. On these road courses especially, it just feels like we're seeing the Xfinity version of Ty Gibbs kind of peek his head into the Cup Series now. Now, is he going to be able to be mature enough to keep that going? The question still remains to be answered, but I think at this particular time, you're seeing him run well enough for a top 5. As for Briscoe, look, again, it's another guy where I necessarily wasn't banging the drum for Chase Briscoe earlier in the season, as I'm sure a lot of people weren't, but he's turning a lot of heads. Yeah, he's got speed in qualification. Problem is, he's just got to be able to maintain it the whole way through. And so that 19 car we know is good, right? And we know he's actually been able to be, and Cody brought it up a few times over too on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, tracks in which Martin Truex was good, or on which Martin Truex was good. He's been good so far too. And Watkins Glen and Martin Truex, right, for a long time, synonymous with each other. I think Chase Briscoe can uphold that tradition and be good. And look, all you're asking for, you said, is a top 10, yeah? So,
well, top 5. So top 5 is more to ask. Top 10, again, like I said, maybe top 10 would have been a better bet there, but I like these numbers, and I have enough faith in these guys. And I feel like it's going to play out similarly to how we've seen these road course races play out, and those have had both the 19 and the 54 running in and around the top 5. I'm just betting they're both going to do it this week.
Agreed. All right, well, that leads on to my next top 5, or my next placement prop. Say that 3 times fast. How about Kyle Busch? We're going to bring Kyle Busch back into the picture. I'm only asking you for a top 10 at this opportunity. Plus 130. I will tell you that he finished 5th at COTA earlier this season. I will tell you that he finished 5th in Chicago a little while ago. I will tell you that he finished 10th in Sonoma. So he's 3 out of 4 because in Mexico City, we know that was a rough day for Kyle Busch. Ended up, what did he get? Spun on lap 6, right? And didn't even get to finish anything.
It was early, that as long as it doesn't rain, I feel like Kyle Busch will be fine. I didn't mention this about Byron too. My big point on Byron last week was, okay, if it's not a fuel mileage race, I'm all in for Byron because it's not going to be a fuel mileage race. Goes out there, wins on fuel mileage. But for Kyle Busch, I remember him saying in that post race for him, as he was out of the race interview, it was in the wet, and I thought I was doing all right, and then I just sent it into turn 1 with a lot of confidence, kind of like he did in practice at Iowa, and ends up destroying himself and Larson and Allmendinger and a few others there. But anyway, Kyle Busch good on road courses this year for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and he started 8th that day too, so he had speed in qualifying. So, yeah, he's looking like the old Kyle Busch in these road course races, and I'm just asking him to get a top 10 at plus 130. I don't feel like that's too much to ask for a guy that's done it a couple of times already. A top 5 at your own risk if you want. I didn't look up the number because I didn't want to get tempted, but I think a top 10 is a good way to get in on Kyle Busch this weekend.
Yeah, I think top 10 is a good number there. The top 5 definitely seems like a decent number. I don't know if I threw anything on Busch this week. I think I threw the top 10 on him in maybe every other road course race, maybe outside of COTA. I definitely had some money on him. Kyle Busch's top 5 number, shout out Action Network, the best in the Action Network group odds 5-1 over on FanDuel. That's not terrible. If I didn't already have money in the top 5 market with those guys, I might have to bet it, but that's really pushing your luck. I'm going to pick 3 of the top 5 and the outright. That'd be a heck of a betting week. But yeah, Kyle Busch, and he was top 10 at Sonoma too. Yeah, I'm sure you have that in front of you. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, this is another one that just almost seems like free money. As long as it doesn't rain. We've seen he can't really handle the rain, I guess. But with the 8 car, I mean, we've seen it's just crazy that Kyle Busch, we're betting him as a fringe top 10 guy. And it's still hard to get used to, as I'm sure it is for you, for someone who lived through those years of Kyle Busch winning every race there is and winning the 2 championships and all that. It's a different Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch knows it's a different Kyle Busch, but is still able to go out there and run as best he can. And I think he's top 20 in points. He's not going to point his way in, but a guy that in any of the next 3 weeks you could see go out there compete for the win.
Yeah, and for Kyle Busch too, when you see him, and obviously you've seen him at Pocono, I saw him at Sonoma. anytime anybody asks him a question, he just looks exasperated because it's basically the same type of question for Kyle Busch. It's like, all right, well, this isn't the year that you've been used to or the year that you're ready for. What are you going to do? And he just kind of looks glazed and he's like, well, we're just going to go out and keep running the race that we run and figure out how to make the car faster. And even his car owner said, hey, we got to make these cars faster. So maybe it begins at the road course, and a road course that he's been traditionally good at over the past parts of his career. And, it's tough. It's really tough for Kyle Busch because you want him to do better. And obviously he's not necessarily going out there and living up to the hype.
No, I would agree. And it could continue the momentum for RCR as well. Austin Dillon with the top 10 last week there. I wanted to bring this up from TK earlier. Bit surprised Gibbs isn't running Xfinity, but maybe he doesn't want to be shown up by SVG and Zilisch. And maybe that honestly might be part of the reason. Also mentioning Busch has the speed to overcome multiple mistakes at both Chicago and Sonoma. Good point. He spun out running top 5 or top 10 and came back up through mistakes at both Chicago and Sonoma. So if he can keep it clean, top 10 should be very doable. I might have to put my own asterisk mark of, hey, dummy, go and bet this one because Rod threw out a good bet, and we're glad that he did. One more placement prop for me. Preece top 4, Ryan Preece in the 60. This is at 7-1 over on Caesars. And again, one that is a bit of a reach, but I'm in that mood this week. I do also have money on a plus 330 top 10 for Preece over on FanDuel. And it has been a really impressive year for Preece. And I feel like every time we bet him and talk about him, it always leads off with that. Preece has had a heck of a year in this 60 car, a team that we didn't know was going to be together. They didn't know if they'd have a charter. We didn't know what would happen with the 60 car, but they've gone out there. And I think he's 26 back on Buescher to be in the playoffs on points. That is very impressive for a guy who it took him a while to find that cup ride and really nailed it down. A couple of years with SHR and then over to the 60 here. He's been impressive at all track types too. It's not just been only on road courses or only on super speedways, only on short tracks is bread and butter. It's been everywhere. You go to the road courses specifically, he was the top Ford at Chicago, finished, I think, 4th. He was the top 4 Ford in Mexico and Sonoma. Sonoma, I think he was the 3rd best Ford. Again, not stats you normally look at, but when I'm betting the top 4, I'm going to take a peek at it. South of the border in Mexico started 2nd and had a strategy kind of blow a better finish. I think he probably wasn't going to win. He was probably going to be about a mile behind Ty Gibbs, but he was going to probably run top 5 if the strategy hadn't blown it there. Last 2 weeks, P4 and P5 in some fuel mileage races, though, in Indianapolis and Iowa, but races where they had to work all day. I remember Preece in the first part of the race last weekend, qualified really poorly and was just running 30th for most of the first half of that race. Really confusing, but they play the strategy well, gets him up to another top 5 there. In Indianapolis, he was the top Ford. In Iowa, he was the 2nd best Ford behind Keselowski. And I think that this has really benefited, too, by the fact that Penske has been just plain old inept on road courses this year. I'm not expecting Logano or Blaney to do all that much, and I'm certainly not expecting Cindric to do anything, which is really surprising for how he ran a few years ago on road courses. I think this is going to be a battle between the RFK boys, barring some wild strategy. I think your top Ford at Mexico was Cole Custer. I'm not expecting that this week either. I think it's going to be a battle of the RFK boys. Keselowski doesn't have a road course win, but the Glen has been his best road course. If it weren't for Marcus Ambrose in, 11 or 12 with that battle there after Kyle Busch spun out, maybe he would have won. And then Buescher, we know last year had a good run there. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. I think it's between the RFK boys, and I think it is 7-1 for the top Ford. I'm giving Preece the momentum here to get it closer to that bubble.
Because, you're not really scared of Josh Berry at this point. Not on
road courses. Not on road courses.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So, you're right. I think it's RFK. And we've seen even Brad Keselowski have signs of life over the last few races, right? I think even the broadcast was talking about how Brad said, all right, well, we've got Preece and we've got Buescher running well. And now I need to pick it up because I'm the one that's lagging behind. And then he goes off and he has several great runs in a row for Brad Keselowski as of late. So I think you're right. I think this RFK Ford team is peaking at just the right time. And there's not a lot of Fords to contend with, right? So you're really only dealing with RFK right now that are making big runs at it. So you're right. I think if anything, this number alone, 7-1 for Ryan Preece, it's a good number. And I know TK is concerned that Preece is going to take stage points and all that as well. But look, this is the difficult thing, Elliot. And I think I kind of ran into this over the last several weeks where you start overthinking and you can't handicap strategy. I can't handicap 2 tires versus 4. I can't handicap fuel only. I can't handicap splitting the stage. I can use an educated guess as to what I think they're going to do, but the guy in the pit stall is the one that makes that call, and I can't be the one to guess what he's going to do, right? I mean, William Byron, by all rights and accounts, probably should have come in and pit because he may have been running out of fuel, but I can't handicap that pit strategy. So to me, it's like, just go with what looks right, and the strategy is going to be what the strategy is, right? And if it bites us in the ass in the end of it, it bites us in the ass. But I'm more ready to go down using my research rather than saying, okay, well, they're going to take stage points here. Because what if they don't? Well, then I screwed myself because it was a situation that didn't play out that I thought was going to play out.
Yeah, and it is stuff that's just impossible to handicap because in race is going to change that. We saw it last week at Iowa. You get a caution after some guys run long, flips the field a little bit there. Then we get down to the end. Okay, Chase Elliott and Barry are staying out. They have no chance. But then you have Byron. We didn't think he had a shot. We thought that Nemechek and Bowman were kind of on the same lap, about 10 laps more fuel than Byron. And we thought before the last 6 cautions, they didn't have a shot either. Strategy evolves as the race goes on. But you can't handicap the expectations. And this is a good point from TK here, that those guys who are on the bubble, kind of similar to last year, this was a playoff race and a race where those guys who didn't have a lot of playoff points to fall back on, that were kind of in that, okay, we need some points to get out of here with a decent day and to be kind of above the bubble as it was heading to I think it was the cutoff race at Bristol after this. Those guys on the bubble, Reddick has enough of a cushion. He's probably going to just race the same way he would race. Bowman is like plus 65. They may very well go for stage points. Bowman, not a guy who can win at the Glen, has never had a top 10 here. Buescher and Preece, within 25 points of each other. Maybe they split their strategies and see which one works. Maybe they just have Keselowski go balls to the wall for the win and have both of them points race. Behind them, I think you have, it's mostly winning in from there, but you have, I think Ty Gibbs is up now into about 19th in the points. Kyle Busch is around there. I think Allmendinger is kind of back around there. So you're right. We can kind of handicap some expectations for a couple of those guys. But you're right. In terms of how it's going to go in race, you have one thing happen. One guy gets hit. One guy spins in the wrong time, and it just turns out haywire. And you can't handicap it on your betting card, but some occasional expectations you can lay. But you're right. If it bites you in the rear end, it's going to get you, and it's probably going to hurt.
And what pays the most points? Winning, right?
Yep.
Why would you not have the race? I know it's like, oh, we're just going to race for a good points day. Hell no. Go for the win. Like that's really ultimately what pays the most points. And that's what you should always be handicapping, is these guys want to go out and win this race.
And that's what I want to see this weekend. But we'll just have to see as we move on to matchups here. This between a guy who we know is probably going to win and a guy who a lot of people think is going to win, but I don't think there's a chance. This is the only shot that I saw to fade Connor Zilisch in Cup, was in a matchup against SVG, which is kind of nice because this is the easiest fade in the world. I'll take SVG over anybody. And even at a minus 250, I think this might be the most juice I've drank on a bet this year, at least in an individual race at a minus 250. We've talked about it a little bit, but like I said, I think the Cup guys against the kid with a handful of starts and the Cup equipment against the kid in the 4th Trackhouse car, tough to expect more than a top 10 run for Zilisch. And I do think Zilisch probably does flirt around the top 10. He'll be going on the strategy that probably goes for a win. We saw Dakota, when he is only road course starting Cup so far, was kind of running up through the field, qualified toward the back. I don't remember if he had some practice issue or something like that, but kind of started ended up in the back one way or another. Gets up to mid-pack, and I guess he kind of ran into Daniel Suarez's trouble that kind of destroyed that car. But again, that's one of those things that Zilisch was destroyed in that accident. None of the other Cup guys were, other than Suarez, who wrecked in the first place. So just those little intricacies and those nuances, comparing the best road course racer that the Cup Series has seen in at least 50 years, maybe longer, to a kid who's up and coming and who next year full-time I think is good, but this year it's just not enough. Give me all the juice. Give me another whole bottle of this nice little Gatorade lemon lime. Give me the orange juice for breakfast. Give me all of it. Here, SVG over Zilisch.
This is buddy bite. He beat him in Xfinity. Yeah, he beat him in Xfinity. And I said it earlier in the show. That's Xfinity series, right? And honestly, it wasn't even that much of a thumping that everybody thinks it was, because obviously, listen, SVG had the next day to think of as well. Connor Zilisch did not. And obviously, SVG is not racing for an Xfinity title. Connor Zilisch is. So, yeah, there's a lot. And they raced each other hard, right? They really did. And SVG even said at the end of that, hey, man, we raced hard. We raced clean. And you got to give it to Connor Zilisch. Not that they're not going to race each other hard and clean in the Cup Series as well. But, I guarantee you that there's a lot more to be had in this for SVG than there is for Connor Zilisch. And he won't let something go like he did in the Xfinity series. And not to say that he did, but at the same time, he raced a little bit more because he's like, okay, well, he's the series regular. I'll let that. So yeah, I think SVG obviously, and just because TK said the field thinks it's SVG just like we do, I get that. And it's probably going to be all throughout anything.
Yeah, for Zilisch too, first time running not just double duty, but he's running triple duty this weekend. I know that driving race cars is fun. It's what people want to do. It's what he's good at. It's what he's best at. But 3 races in a weekend, again, for the relative inexperience of a kid like this, maybe at some point in one of these 3 races that kind of affects him, gets to him. For I don't even know. Or maybe I'm just trying to make up more reasons to fade Connor Zilisch and ignore everyone else who are really betting these numbers down. But that's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. What's your matchup for the weekend here, Rob?
It's a good plan. I'm going to take young Joseph Logano. I know we just downgraded the whole Ford field, but I'm going to take Joey Logano. He's in a matchup right now against Daniel Suarez, and this is minus 115 over on Caesars. And unfortunately, I mean, I know me, Cody, we're talking about. It's like the perception that Daniel Suarez has very good road course skills. And granted, yeah, he won in Sonoma, but outside of that, the resume is not really that great, especially even this season, right? He started 5th in Austin, but ended up, like you said, mixed up in that thing with Connor Zilisch, ended up finishing 36th on the day. Now you think, okay, well, if he's going to do that, he'll rebound. Well, in Mexico City, where everybody was all in love with him, where he won the Xfinity race, he ends up finishing 19 in the Cup race. And then Chicago, he finished 29th. Sonoma, he finished 14th. Just not stellar overall finishes on road courses. Well, I'm not going to say that Joey Logano was much better, but Coda 24th, right? Turned around for a 21st place finish at Mexico City, but not a 9th place at Sonoma. So here's where I will draw the pretty much comparison. These older tracks where these drivers have been on several times over, right? I can't hold a Mexico City against Joey Logano. I can't hold a Chicago against Joey Logano, even though he finished 11th, which was better than Daniel Suarez in that particular race. But I can look at what he's done at Sonoma, what he's done at Watkins Glen. So Sonoma, he finished 9th earlier this season. At the Glen, in 3 next-gen races, 2022, Joey finished 3rd. He finished 10th in 2020. I'm sorry, 2022, he finished 3rd. 2023, he finished 10th. 2024, he finished 15th. As for Daniel Suarez, he's finished 5th, 22nd, and 13th on this track. So, we're talking 2 for 3. Joey Logano has beaten him in the next gen era on this track. And I think that trend continues again. Daniel Suarez is basically now done, right, at Trackhouse. And he's not Kaden Honeycutted, but I think he is going to be slowly phased out of meetings and all that other good stuff. So we're seeing the tail end of Daniel Suarez in Trackhouse, and Joey Logano's where he's at. So I think how he's done well on the last older road courses versus Daniel Suarez and how he's performed on road courses in general this year, give me Joey Logano over Daniel Suarez.
And the cool thing about this is, too, you said neither of them. It's been a while since they've run really well consistently. Logano's got the win here, so that's the good, old school, old world road courses. This is totally allowed to be for 17th place, and Logano can win it, and you still make your money. They don't have to brand up front at all. You mentioned about getting Kaden Honeycutted. Suarez is not going to get Kaden Honeycutted. We didn't talk about this in the news, as the rumor mill says maybe Justin Haley could get Kaden Honeycutted before the end of the year. That could be interesting to watch there with that Spire 7 and maybe get a certain Connor Zilisch that we've been talking about, some extra cup starts there, but we won't talk about that till it's official. As Zilisch said, probably this week he'd have a big announcement to make. I don't know if that was that he was going to run the Nice truck or if they were going to officially put him in that Trackhouse car for next year. But I think you're right about Suarez. Excuse me. I don't think they're going to give up on him. They're probably going to run these next 3 races as hard as they can to get him in the playoffs. But I can very easily see and probably very easily fade Suarez in each of those last 10 races. As I just don't know the upside there. Atlanta's not in the playoffs this year. We already had that. So I just don't think the upside is there for Suarez. And I certainly don't think it is this week. Like I said, is this going to be for 17th? Probably, but I'm okay with that. I'm hoping these 2 guys are going to run a little better than 17th for my other matchup. Chris Buescher over Michael McDowell, plus 120 on Bet365. McDowell's a big favorite, and I don't really get it. But it's tough. I've got faith and I've got funds invested in McDowell this weekend. If we got time to chat some bonus bets and fill some space at the end, which we just might, we can talk more about McDowell. But I just have enough doubt in that 71, especially after Chicago, and enough faith in Buescher that I need to at least place this as a hedge, if not finding a way to be comfortable with Buescher too. It's tough because Buescher, they didn't have great speed at Chicago and Sonoma, and I know part of that was mechanical at Chicago. The speed just hasn't been there like it was in the past with Buescher on the road courses. He hasn't really had that dominant presence at the road courses like he had at the end at Watkins Glen last year. I don't even know if he was super dominant there. And at the end of the day, I think the placement numbers could be better for these guys. I don't really think either can go up there with SVG and take the win. 2024 SVG is clearly a lot different than 2025 SVG. These are some guys that I do think will flirt around the top 10 most of the day. Buescher really needs it because, as I said, Preece has been running extraordinarily well, and Buescher has kind of sort of not as much. At least he's been way more quiet. Certainly was way more quiet at Iowa. I think he finished there in the mid-20s, or certainly not as relevant as Keselowski and Preece both being in the top 5. But in terms of this little isolated matchup here, I think the 17 can certainly beat the 71. So give me the lower end of that on the higher end, and the plus money too. Lord knows I love some plus money, and I need it. Drinking some of the juice I'm drinking this week.
And that's really what I love the most about this is the plus money part of it, because obviously we know Buescher won last year. Is he going to win again this year? There's some very special circumstances that made him win this year. But for McDowell, I feel like Spire's like whack-a-mole, right? I mean, it's Justin Haley with the top 10, it's McDowell with the top 10, it's Hocevar with the top 10, and just pick your poison each and every week as to where they're going to be. And it's hard to really predict that. Whereas we just talked earlier about the RFK guys and how they've consistently had speed and they've consistently found themselves in the top 10. And we know of the 3 right now, Buescher's the one that's running probably the best, right? I mean, eye test says it. Maybe the stats don't completely back it up the way it should. But, you know, when you're looking at RFK, one of the first cars you look at that is at 17. And you're like, okay, I'll take that. But I do like the fact that they're putting this defending race winner against Michael McDowell, who I almost feel like the books are pushing us toward Michael McDowell. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're trying to set us up to take a Michael McDowell. They're like, come on, you want Michael McDowell. He's the favorite. He's a good road course racer, remember? It's like, is he really though?
Well, they're hoping people remember Chicago, where he led basically all of stage 1, beat SVG on one restart, got away a little bit, and then had those issues. They're hoping they don't remember Sonoma, where, if I recall correctly, he was not really running top 5 most of the day. Ends up getting that top 5 running up on strategy. I think he was 3rd there, if not 4th. But yeah, in terms of this particular matchup, I like Buescher. As we dip down to the Xfinity series, as our cup cards are finished off, Michael McDowell. Oh, hey, this guy. I'm going to take him for a top 5, plus 110 on ESPN bet. I don't love this number, but we did see the 11 car was pretty fast last week, and we know McDowell is solid on the road courses. I saw this at even money somewhere, though, and I saw it at a minus 200 somewhere else. So I feel like plus 110. I figured if I was interested in betting it, I should probably grab it at that number just in case it ends up going a little haywire. Like I said, the 11 car in college still has a little bit of speed there. We saw it with Hocevar last week at Iowa. We know McDowell has good road course prowess. Gives me a feeling that he could be one of the challengers, if not a benefactor to whatever mess happens between the 88 and the 9 if things get a little too physical up there in the Finger Lakes. McDowell, not a guy who really steps down to the lower series that often. His most recent Xfinity start, 2016, but it came at Road America, and he won the race. So that gives me some good hope too. Last time he was in one of the Xfinity cars, he did pretty well. And you go all the way back to 2010 in whatever garbage Xfinity car was running back then, top 10, finished 10th in that race back there 15 plus years ago at this point. In the Cup Series, as I mentioned, got some coin on him in Cup that we might talk about, or you can read it in the article that we got tomorrow. Spoiler for one of the bets there, talking about the model. And I totally dropped the lead on the model. SVG's at 100% this week in our betting model. The first 100 we've had. Go and check out our top 10 for that, as well as some picks. That'll be, it might come out tomorrow morning as we're running a little bit early this week. Normally comes out Friday mornings over there. You can read it on Twitter and sends you to in-media.com. Anyway, back to this McDowell bet. Winner in 2016 in his last Xfinity start at Road America. In the Cup Series, 21 road course starts. I think that is in the next gen that I have, 13.3 average finish, and 2 top 7s in the last 3 races at the Glen. So on the Cup side, pretty solid. Xfinity side, I feel like that Bailey Zimmerman number 11 will probably run pretty well there.
Remember when Colleague had the best road course car out there in AJ Allmendinger. And here we are now, not even talking about Christian Eckes. Like, none of us have Christian Eckes, and we're not talking about Christian Eckes. It's so sad how the 16 car has fallen, but
I will say we do have Nick has Christian Eckes there. That's a bit of a stretch, though, Nick. That's why I hadn't mentioned it until right now.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is tough. But the 11 car, obviously, with Michael McDowell in it, I just got done poo-pooing him as far as being a really solid road course racer. But this is the Xfinity series, right? This is, I think, Michael McDowell can come in and run a top 5 run in that 11 car. And how beautiful is that car, by the way? That's a fantastic looking car. I think that'll look good in the top 5.
It's solid, and I think it's even got like a neon lights like BZ on the front there. I'm no big Bailey Zimmerman fan, but I do love a good paint scheme when you can see it. So maybe that 11 car will be running up front, maybe just behind your guy who you've got though in Xfinity.
And Sam Mayer, the winner of the 2023 Xfinity Series race. Unfortunately, he did not do very well last year. He finished 20th. But look, Sam Mayer at plus 450 for a top 3. I fully understand that you have all of these guys in there. I understand that you have Connor Zilisch, who's the second coming of SV Jesus, and you got SV Jesus in there, but Sam Mayer in and of his own right has been a very solid road course racer through the course of his career. In the 1 car at the Circuit of the Americas at Coda's, a 5th place, a 7th place, a 9th place, and a 3rd place finish last year, or even this year earlier in the 41 car, right? I mean, he was in JRM equipment for most of the time that he was running all of these great races, but this Haas factory car has not really been that much of a step down for him. In fact, you could even say for him, it's been an upgrade because guess what? They've been putting a little more resource into Sam Mayer in this Haas factory car, and he's been benefited from it all season long. How about the Charlotte Roval? 2 wins in a row, an 11th place and a 10th place in that. How about at Road America? He won in 2023 in the 1 car. How about at Sonoma? A 3rd place finish in 2024. Fortunately, this year, he led 5 laps and ended up finishing 17 in that one, but he did start in the top 3. Again, all in all, it's just, for me, this is taking a guy who is way, way being undervalued at plus 450 to just finish in the top 3. He's not scared of Connor Zilisch. He's not scared of SVG. He's not scared of these guys that are coming down to try to take it away from him. He's raced these guys in his entire career. He's raced these guys and he stood toe to toe with them. So I feel like Sam Mayer is a good top 3 candidate. I love his top 3 or a number at plus 450 over on Hard Rock.
Yeah, he may not be scared of them. He may be at 3.5 seconds behind him, but that would hit that top 3 as well. And yeah, Mayer, one of those guys, is easy to forget how good he is on road courses. And I feel like you're right. The reason he left JRM, went to Haas factory team. I mean, of course, maybe the seats weren't there for him, as you see a couple of guys. Carson Kvapil, Connor Zilisch taking those spots there and doing pretty well with them. But regardless, Mayer figured Haas factory team gives him a better shot and makes him a better priority. And it's been that way. Obviously, a team that hadn't won until Mayer did last week at Iowa, but at the tracks he's pretty good at. I think he's good to stay pretty good at. As you said, he's been solid at Coda earlier this year with a good finish there. And we're not asking him to win. We're not asking him to go be world beaters. We're just asking him, hey, let the world beaters go do your thing and just make sure you hold down 3rd place here to hit that plus 450. A great number, too, here. I don't know if I'm optimistic enough to bet his top 3. Maybe his top 5. I got to go look at those numbers again. If we get top 10s, I'm on Austin Green top 10. They were on ESPN Bet last week. I didn't get them. Hopefully they come back this week. Somewhere throw me some Xfinity top 10s, especially with the field this week. I'll throw down on them. I just wish we lived in a world, too, where we could have truck top 10s. I don't think it'll ever happen. But good Lord, I'd be throwing some on truck top 10s. But no top 10s. And outright, though, give me that 45 truck, Connor Zilisch, this week. I was able to boost this from a plus 110 to a plus 146 over on BetMGM. Got a couple other boosts over there that I'll throw those numbers in the Discord. I'm not too happy with how Nice handled things, as I kind of mentioned earlier, with this 45 truck. But they have their best shot at a win and their best shot at getting the owners' playoffs with Connor Zilisch in this 45. The truck's been decent enough to contend. We know Chastain can drive it to a win. We know Honeycutt has been able to drive it to some good top 5, top 10 finishes. And Zilisch has got a darn good shot in all 3 of the races this week. Well, not the Cup, but the books think he has a good shot in the Cup. His only truck start was back when he was first coming on the scene early last year. Feels like forever ago now. Won the pole at Coda and finished P4. I don't think this 45 truck is going to blow that first corner like he did at Coda at Watkins Glen. And I like Connor Zilisch quite a bit to win this one. Even at this juicy number, I can just see a world where this 45 car just totally goes out and smokes him. But these really stacked field does open some good opportunity down the board. They're up to you if you have any more thoughts on Zilisch or if you just want to crack open your outright.
No, listen, for Zilisch, you can see it, right? There's a course. Obviously, he's killed it in Xfinity, so it stands to reason he should do well in truck, and it's not a bad truck, right? We're not talking him driving the 33 or something like that. This is a good enough truck to compete for the win. So I'm with you on that. However, I will say that all of this love for all of these other guys have pushed Corey Heim plus 400 for his outright. Are you kidding me? Have we forgotten who is actually the best truck driver in this series right now? It's Heim time, and it's always got to be Heim time. A lot like SVG in the Cup Series. If you're not throwing something on Corey Heim, then it's on you when he actually does stand due to beat everybody. 10 top 5 finishes and 16 starts, 5 wins, 31% of the races so far, Elliot, this season he's won, and 12 top 10 finishes. How is he on road courses? Well, not really that bad at all, right? So at Watkins Glen, he did have an 18th place, unfortunately, but he won at the Circuit of Americas in 2024. Again, he's not that bad of a road course racer, and he can get it done. And I really honestly believe that this is just mispriced, right? 400 plus 400. He's got 3 road course wins in 6 road course starts in his career. One of them came at Austin. One of them came at, I had all the tabs open right now, but I'm clicking around because I know we're running out of time. But listen, it's Corey Heim. It's 4-1. I don't care who's in the field. That should not be a thing.
Yeah, it's a number that's definitely solid because of the added drivers in the field. You know, your Bells and your Buschers, but Buescher's never made a truck start. Bell, down in the lower series this year, hasn't had the success that he wants. Heim at a 4-1. I dig it. He was robbed of leading all of the laps at Lime Rock by a funky restart that credited Lane Riggs to leading a lap. And that's something that's easily forgettable. What's not forgettable is both of our truck placement props to round out the show here. We both have these same bets that we had going into Lime Rock. I went back and looked. Mine is Connor Mosack once again. This time he's at plus 1,400 for a top 5 over at Bet365. Who knows if that number's moved a little bit. I think I caught that as soon as it popped up. So hopefully it's still around there. He ran really well at Lime Rock. This was going to hit, and so was my Lane Riggs over Cam Waters bet that day. Before fateful late restart, totally destroyed both of those bets. I was real happy to see that. But this kid, I got to make the same argument here. Solid road course guy, almost a road course ringer type. 3 Xfinity top 10s in his career in a limited amount of starts on road courses. And like I said, this was a plus 325 at Lime Rock, and it would hit. So at a plus 1,400, I know you have Zilisch, I know you have the Cup guys. I like this a lot considering it would have hit there. And I feel like you're going to have some of those Cup guys maybe run into some trouble. So give me Mosack at a big number for a top 5 there. And also a nice little price bump on your top 5 from Lime Rock and for Watkins Glen.
Unbelievable that Ben Rhodes is as big as he is. 800 plus 800 on Bet365 for a top 5 finish. I got to remind you that he just finished inside of the top 5 at Lime Rock. And yeah, I get it. Ben Rhodes is not sexy. He's not the sexiest name out there in the truck series, but boy, the guy can still drive, right? I mean, it's frustrating, and it's been frustrating for him all season long with an average finish of 14th, but he just finished 4th at Lime Rock. We haven't had that many road course races. In fact, that's the only road course race that we had at all this season for the truck series, but he finished 4th in it. So got to go back to the well. 8-1, terrible number for Ben. Oh, great number for you. Terrible number for the books.
Yeah. If you get punched in the face really hard once, that's probably going to happen again, right? If you got Mike Tyson standing next to you. He's a little kind of close to the Ankrum argument, but not quite. Man, every time I feel like we're going to have some extra time at the end of the show, we end up rolling on with it. That speaks to the professionalism of you, my friend Rod Villagomez. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Best places to support you, of course, at RJ Villagomez. So you like sports.com as well as the wonderful NASCAR gambling podcast with you and Cody over there. Best way to support us, join the IBT Racing family. It'll be the IBT football family as well. Check out all of our content. You can get all the links in the description here of this video. Thanks for rolling on down the back road with us a day early here, or if you're listening later, don't matter. Thanks for rolling on down with us, and we will see you again next time on the back road.